All right. Hey, thanks for joining us. If you're thinking about buying an RV, you are in the correct spot. We're brought in an expert. I'm going to introduce him here again once we get everybody in here, Eric. But thanks for joining us. And we have a lot to accomplish today. We have 1 hour basically to equip these folks so that when they're navigating this crazy whitewater rapids of buying an RV these days, they don't get kicked out of the boat. So that's our goal. Our goal is to navigate. So, hey, while we're getting everybody in here, find the chat area. This is going to be important. We're going to communicate through this. You're going to ask questions through this. We're going to be watching this. So find the chat area. Just put in your name and I guess it'll put in your name. Put in what city you're watching from. It'll be fun. We'll do some shout outs while we get everybody in here, and we'll get talking and rolling. So my name's Tim Richardson. Glad to help. The owners of RV Wholesalers said, hey, Tim, even though you're not on payroll, like we wanted you to just help folks. Like we can't sell 600,000 RVs this year. So why don't you grab some experts like Eric, who's going to help us out here, answer the tough questions, grab some experts and let people know like how to navigate this whole buying process so they don't get taken advantage of. That's the very frustrating thing. The owners of RV Wholesalers, Mike and Dave Durnell, were both school teachers, high school teachers for years, and before they got into RVs. And so that's their heart, is make sure everybody knows, what's going on and get as much information out there as you can. So our goal today is to help you answer your questions. While we're, we got some people shouting in. Cool. Michelle, Kansas City, thanks for joining us. We have Robert, Bob from Florida, Kathy's on the road, man, talented.
Hopefully she's not driving.
Michelle's in San Diego. Good morning, Michelle. It's afternoon where I'm at. I'm up in Cleveland. Eric LeRoy has joined us. He's an expert. He's been helping people for years get into campers. Has camped around the globe. Grew up in Colorado. Like this picture right here probably is looks like home to you.
Yeah. On
the rivers in Colorado. What's the Colorado River, or the river that you actually would whitewater on?
The Platte River.
Oh, okay. The Platte. That sounds cool. Carl in West Virginia. Karen in New Jersey. I'm heading to New Jersey soon. Ellen. Hopefully they didn't get hit too hard with the storm. Ellen and Jane in Minnesota. David in New Jersey. Man, greetings, guys. We have lots of people on here. James Myers. While you're in the chat area, I'm just curious, like, what type of RV, if you know, like, what type of RV you're looking for, put that in the chat, whether it's toy haul or fifth wheel. Like, for me, when I first started helping out years ago, when I heard RV, I thought that was a motorhome. So I didn't realize that was the whole class of RVs as the class of recreation vehicles, which includes motorhomes, class A, B, and C. It includes the travel trailers, which, you got everything from fifth wheels to toy haulers to park models that you sit on a lot to what are some other ones? Hybrid. Yeah. So let us know what kind are you guys looking for. You don't have to get specific, just like class A, B, C, motorhome, toy hauler, all that good stuff. Andrea from Long Island, thanks for joining us. We got a Rockwood, Michael. Man, some people know exactly. Some people are just figuring it out. So everybody's at different stages. We're just going to kind of start at the beginning and work through as much as we can. We're going to focus a little bit more on what I think is really important is relating to pricing and understanding hidden fees and some of those kind of real key components where a lot of people are getting ripped off, or there's a lot of issues like right now happening. So, but yeah, this picture, this is Eric and I in the blue in the back. Our goal is to guide you guys. This will be you in the yellow hats. And this is what we don't want to happen. Like when you are going through this little fun journey of getting to get your first camper, your second camper, we want to make sure that it's a great experience, not like this where you hit the rapids. So this is my very first RV that my dad actually built this thing, a little camper topper up in British Columbia, Canada. So I had got the privilege to camp a lot. Take my family out on a regular basis, and love RVing and camping. And we don't still have this one though, but I like to say RV saved my life because during this camping trip, I stayed in the camper, and my brothers found bear prints around the little campsite when we had to camp out, and I actually like to say RV saved my life. So I have a special place in my heart for RV. So number one, shop the out-the-door price. Let's talk about that, Eric. Like, why is that important when you start going out there and you're comparing apples to apples? Like, why do you have to do this? Like, and then we'll dive into like the whole issue of how things are priced right now and what's going on with that, and then we'll talk about hidden fees. So, but yeah, this kind of started at the basics, like why it's important to do this.
Yeah. So when you shop for a trailer, you got to really have the number one thing in your mind is that it's a dealership, right? And everybody's got a story or two about how a place ripped them off or ripped their friend off or things like that. And a lot of that, the said ripping off could come from them not simply asking for an out-the-door price. What is the out-the-door price and what is included in that out-the-door price? And you really have to make sure that when you're shopping an out-the-door price, say one dealer, I saw somebody was looking at a 2511 mini light. I love the 2511, so I'm going to use that for an example. Say, this dealer has a 2511 and this other dealer has a 2511. You want to make sure, for one, they are the same. So they compare apples to apples. Second, you want to make sure that each of these out-the-door prices have included in it, all fees. And we're going to get into a couple of hidden fees that you need to ask about too. So what are your fees? What are the options? Do they compare? So when you do not ask for the out-the-door price, you're really kind of setting yourself up for a potential bad experience. Because, if you never asked for what it was out the door, how would you know? So they're just going to tack on anything they want. So, yeah, that's super important that you do that when you shop and when you get the out the door price.
Yeah, no, that's good points. We're going to be recording this, so you don't have to take all the notes like a crazy person. And thankfully, our friend said she is not driving. Catherine said
yes. I'm thankful that she is not driving.
And, but yeah, so we're going to record it. We'll send you about an hour, 2 hours after this. We'll send you a link in an email. So look for an email. It'll have a link to this recording. And as we're getting ready to talk about hidden fees, I'm going to put up a list. Actually, it's going to look like this. And we'll talk about this in just a second. I'm going to put this list up as a download. So you guys have a look over in the chat area. There should be a place where you can download this PDF. It's a one-page free PDF. It just has some of the things we're going to talk through here. I'm covering up one of the pictures or one of the points. But yeah, that's going to help you as we dive into hidden fees, because that's an area where dealerships are able to get a lot of extra money, actually. Don't mean to sugarcoat it. But yeah, just get, when you're, like Eric said, when you're starting this whole buying process, like you said, it's what you pay out the door that really matters. So we want you to know, we don't want any surprises for you, from taxes to understand how that works, which that's going to happen with everything. And then some of these fees that are going to happen in every state, but then there's some that should be optional and some that shouldn't happen at all. So we're going to dive into that real quick. And then we'll talk about pricing a little bit more on what we're seeing with price increases, because now is a situation of new units are really getting hit with price increases. So we're going to talk about that. But let's keep going on this hidden fee thing. So what's that number one there, the PDI? What's PDI? What's that mean? And why are we seeing this so often? This is a really common place.
So pre-delivery inspection, every RV, in the sense of a dealership, every dealership of any kind has some sort of a pre-delivery inspection, meaning that this after this thing, whether it's a car, camper, boat, whatever, as soon as it makes that initial voyage to the dealership, a pre-delivery inspection is performed to make sure that nothing was damaged in transport, nothing shook loose, things like that. And the factories that built into every camper, the factories have PDI money or inspection money or an allowance per se for the dealer to take advantage of if something were to happen between the manufacturing plant and the dealership. So some dealers actually will charge you a pre-delivery inspection fee. And this is why you need to ask when you're looking at getting that out the door number, do you have a pre-delivery inspection fee? And if they say yes, it is probably best that you walk away from that dealer, because that means quite straightforward is that they are double dipping on money. They're getting money from the manufacturer and they're charging you for it because you don't know any better.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the factory is in Elkhart, Indiana. 95% are in that area. So the unit's built there, and then it has to go to wherever you are. So if Bill's in Louisiana or wherever you guys are, it has to get to you. Via a dealer. You can't go to the factory and pick it up. So it always goes to a dealer. So wherever that dealer is. And I kind of look at it as it's the over-the-road test. It's like the final quality control. Like, hey, let's bounce this thing around, make sure everything's fastened in good, and then we'll have one last inspection by the dealership. The dealership makes the final inspection. But they get paid, like you said, they're getting their full rate. So they're getting from the factory, they're getting reimbursed for anything they have to fix under this warranty. It's that new expectation. Like they want it to be a perfect vehicle for the customer. And so the factory's willing to pay for that. So then I agree with you. It's like, how do you justify charging a customer more money for them to make sure that it's inspected to be in new condition? It's like, you don't see that happening in art. It's like you don't pay a fee because you want them to take any scratches out or clean the rugs or make sure this is looking like a new car when you get it.
Yeah, and to answer Eduardo's question here is that a PDI can be done on either new or used, but talking in the sense of used, pre-delivery inspection is that dealer taking possession of that used trailer from the previous owner, and they go through and inspect it. Typically, that inspection is done before they take custody of it to make sure that they are getting what they paid for, right? Yeah. So you can say that it's not necessarily called a pre-delivery inspection fee. It's a used trailer inspection. And in that case, you may, in the used world, you may actually want to be charged for that. And I haven't heard of one in a while, but I have seen them before, upwards of $500 to $1,000 for a used trailer inspection fee.
Yeah, in fact, if you are buying used and you're not buying from a dealer, I'm going to give you a couple inspecting services coming up here in a little bit when we talk about used. So hang with us on that. We'll get back to that. But yeah, this is, you shouldn't have to pay it for PDI. We're talking, this is a fee that, what, Eric, is $1,400-ish? Downwards?
No, that inspection, shoot, that could be a couple thousand.
Yes. It's real common with some of the chains out there to charge. Yeah. You just really, it's not a hidden fee, right? If you know about this and it's on your sales agreement. And let me time out for a second. There's a lot of people we've talked to I can't believe it, Eric. I think you even told me about some people even just recently that you ask them like, "Hey, what was the price that you got on that?" And then you ask for a copy of the sales agreement so you can see how they broke out their fees and see how they got to their bottom number, the out the door price, and how it could be that cheap or whatever. And what was their response? Oh, I put a deposit down. They didn't really give me anything in writing.
Yeah.
Oh my people. Okay. If nothing else, make sure you ask for in writing. I want a sales agreement that spells out exactly what options I'm getting for this one I'm going to put my deposit down on. So options, 2, hidden fees, or, you don't call them that, but any extra fees so that I know what the final dollar amount is I'm paying or putting onto a finance agreement when I come to pick up my RV. So make sure you ask for that. And you want to see it in writing. And I think now would be a good time to take it one step further and talk about price increases, because this is the point where you want to know that that's the price you're going to pay when you pick it up. So the RV is ordered. It's, you pick out the colors and everything that you want, the accessories, and then they order it. The dealer orders it, and the dealer doesn't actually pay for that unit until it comes off the line. So as soon as they manufacture it, it's inspected, passes quality control, then they hit the dealership's credit line or whatever it is. That's when the dealership pays for it. And what's happening is between the time you ordered it, say that's a 3-month window or whatever it is, during that time is when there's been, say, 2 price increases. It's not uncommon right now. What have you seen, Eric, price increase wise?
Per increase, they've been in percentages, not really exact amounts, but I know on some of the motor coach side, they've been upwards of 6%, and on travel trailers they've been around 2 or 3%, and travel trailers and fifth wheels, I should say, about 2 or 3%. So I mean, what does that mean? If you're looking at spending, $100,000 on something, I mean, 6%, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And these increases aren't just happening it's not a one and done kind of thing. Some of these increases have been happening on a monthly basis. For trailers and fifth wheels, in some cases, there'll be small increases, but they're happening twice a month, so that it's very real. And you gotta find yourself a dealer that is going to put it in writing that they are going to protect that price. You put in your money, you want to know before you put in your money that they are going to protect you and not charge you more. Because I mean, it's a modern way of bait and switch. Really, it's a wise way to bait and switch.
Are okay with it, not that they are, but it's how dealerships think people are okay with it. Because I can't think of anything else I would buy if I went and ordered something and you told me that's what the sale price is, or that's the price today, and I would expect that's the price. If you can't deliver it for a few weeks or months or whatever, that's the price I agreed to pay. That's the contract. I gave you the money. You gave me the sales agreement. So make sure you have that. And then that's the price I'm going to pay. Well, that's where they're coming back and saying, oh, well, the factory has increased the prices. We're going to have to pass that on to you, or we're going to split it with you. We've seen dealerships, some more unscrupulous kind of dealerships, where they'll say, well, it was a 2% price increase when in reality it was a 1%, in reality it's 1%. So they said, well, let's split it. So we each pay 1%. We each pay $1,500 and we'll call it good. Well, they actually covered their fees. So price increases, you want to make sure that you lock them down and you say, get it in writing. This is the price I'm going to pay when I pick up. Right now, there's a little clause that's showing up at the end of these sales agreements that says price may vary based on dealer pricing or something like that. But my question to you is, if you agree to that, there's no way you can prove what the dealer actually paid for that vehicle. It's not like regulated, like in the auto industry where there's an invoice and a number that's just solid. In this industry, it's a whole different ballgame. Like there's, they sell 1,000 units and they get rebates and like all kinds of stuff. There's no way you could pin down like what a dealership actually paid for an RV to say that, oh, that was only this amount of price increase. Why, you can't pass that to me. So be careful there. That's definitely something you want to ask. Don't be afraid to ask these questions too with them. You got to be tough. Otherwise you get taken advantage of. Yeah,
you really do.
It's bad because the demand's so great and they just kind of make you feel bad. Like even with these hidden fees, PGI, for example, this is how the flow works. You place your order, you put your deposit down, you know what you see your sales agreement, or you don't look over it very well, or they don't put all these hidden fees on there. And then you come to pick up your RV. The first thing they do when you get there is they give you the walkthrough. It's like, you're excited because there's your RV. Like you've waited, you picked it out. Oh, it's perfect. It's got the colors you wanted. I love it. The kids are there with you, the dog. They're all finding their little spots in the RV. They're giving you a walkthrough. They're teaching you everything about it. So for an hour, you're learning everything about it or however long it takes. Like there's no rush. Like they want you to be comfortable with it. Sometimes they charge you for that, so make sure they don't charge you for a walkthrough. That really sucks. But you can have your camera. You can learn everything there is, how to light the pilot on the gas grill, outdoor gas grill, to everything. I mean, they want you to see it all. So you're all excited. You trained. Now that's when you go into the F&I room or the closing room or the room where you sit and do the final paperwork. And that's when, as you're getting to the last page, after you signed all the basics, that's when these hidden fees start popping up. It's like, oh, you wanted us to do a pre-delivery inspection, right? Like you wouldn't want this trailer with issues. Like we, were able to catch these things. And, so thankfully we did that. There was a $1,600 fee for that. You're fine with that, right? Oh, no, you're not fine with that? Well, no worries. We've got 3 other people on the list that will take this this afternoon that are waiting for this rockwood or whatever this is. So, yeah, it's fine. We'll even give you your deposit back. Normally we don't, but since the demand is so high, we'll give you your deposit back and we'll just call one of these other people. Well, what are you going to do at that time? It's like, okay, my family loves it. I just waited 3 months for this thing and you're stuck paying the hidden fees. Okay, well, whatever, $3,000 extra dollars. Didn't plan on it, but roll it into the financing or whatever. So that's what we don't want to happen to you. That's what we call the whitewater, and that's the turbulent that we don't want you to happen. So one of those great things that we're learning today. So thanks, Eric. Good stuff. Other things real quick. We won't dive into all these environmental fees, tire replacement fees. Like you don't need this stuff. Like even if you're in Florida and it comes from Elkhart, don't let them charge you thousands of extra dollars on tires to get new tires that you didn't need. The tires that come with them, you'll get a good 35, 40,000 miles. They've got tire pressure monitoring, so you're alerted before a blowout and that kind of stuff these days. So dock and title. What's dock and title? That's a fee that pretty much everybody, I think, will see at some point.
Yeah, dock and title, it goes by state. Like I know in the state of Ohio, documentation fee and a title fee are actually state required. I can't speak for all 50 states, but I know that there's a couple out there where it is not. So just know your state on dock and title fee. There's a lot of content out there with regards to buying something in your state that would probably have more information on that to be specific to your state.
Yeah, sounds good. And then James, we'll talk about service contracts and stuff and play that game, like see if that's worth it or not. Those are yeah, but we want you to know like how to budget everything. When you're thinking about going to buy an RV, we want you to understand the whole picture here. And we got some really cool things Eric's going to share when it comes to financing that I think will help you save money no matter where you end up. Even if you buy other things besides just RVs. So this will be good. Transportation fees, number 2 here. I'm bouncing around here. This is our last one to talk about on the hidden fee side. But transportation fees, those are interesting because, like I said, all the RVs pretty much come from the Elkhart, Indiana area. In fact, I've been there so many times. I was just there last week filming 2022 models. I've been there, a number of times in the last couple months. And I love going in with cameras, seeing the quality. Been impressed how the quality is kept up. Actually, I think it's getting better because they're so focused on doing a one floor plan instead. Before, a few years ago when I was going in, I'd go in the factories and every couple hours they would switch to a new floor plan. I'm like, how in the world do you guys keep this straight? Like, I don't know, because it's not like robots where it just automatically happens. These are skilled craftsmen that are just in there putting this stuff together. And but yeah, I've been impressed now. They, instead of like adding multiple shifts, they've really just focused on what they're doing. They've narrowed down the floor plans. They're not selling so many now, which is a good thing. And they are, seem like the quality is actually getting a little bit better. It's like, so that's been good. But yeah, so on the transportation fees, though, since everything's made in Elkhart, it has to get to Florida, or it has to get to what's our friend that was out in California, or Bob in Florida. Kathy is on the road somewhere. We don't know where she's at. Eduardo is in Miami. Like all these faraway places from New Jersey. You basically do the math, like go into Google Maps, see how far you are from Elkhart, Indiana. Say it's 1,000 miles to Florida, for example. Do the math. Say $2 on the high side to get an RV from Elkhart to there. Everything has to go basically transport one by one, unless it's a real small one. Maybe they can do 2 at a time, but for the most part, your RV's got to get moved to a dealership or to a location in Florida. Either it goes right to you from a dealership that's closer to the factory, or it comes right there. So there's always going to be, say, $2,000 associated with getting it from Elkhart to Florida. So how do you just make sure that you know that when you're shopping prices, that if you buy it closer, like from you guys in Ohio, for example, there's only a 300, and what's your fee for delivery?
It's $360.
So there's a $360 fee that's tacked onto the price of the RV. So that RV is going to be $360 more than if you bought it in Elkhart, for example. You can't even buy an RV in Elkhart, but just say you did. Theirs would be $360 more. In Florida, it would be $2,000 more. So when you're doing your apples to apples comparison, just know that. And cool little tip. Make sure that they separate that out in your sales agreement, the delivery fee or the transportation fee, because you shouldn't have to pay sales tax on that part. So just like any other vehicle that you buy, you have to pay sales tax, state sales tax in most states. And you basically pay that tax in the state of your residence. So just don't forget about that. We want you to know all these little things to budget in. And so there's no surprises. And yeah, so if you see people starting to charge, because a lot of times they'll start adding on to that transportation fee quite a bit more money. That's another way they can kind of slip some extra money into their profit margin. So you see a lot of these hidden fees, don't you? Like I always thought RV shows was kind of the place to go to get like super good deals, but I didn't realize like they have to make up a lot of money. They have to make up sometimes 100, 200 grand just in transporting all of these RVs to the show. They've got to pay all the staff and the hotels and all the stuff to, and the cleaning fees and the union fees to get these things in position. And I mean, it just adds up to be a lot. Electric and all this, the booth space and all that ends up being 100,000 plus. Sometimes the factories will even help them pay for it because it's so expensive. And then the way they recoup it is these hidden fees. So they all kind of get together and they're like, hey, let's make sure we all have our PDI fees and all, like that's kind of how they pay for these shows. So so sometimes it's not always the best place to get, definitely not the best place to get the best deal.
No.
I was trying to pad it a little bit, but I realized it's not a good place to get a good deal on. Okay, very cool. Let's see. Any questions before we move on to our next one?
Got a lot of people asking if we're going to be talking about pre-owned.
Yeah, we're going to get into that right here, right number 4. We're close there.
I know we'll be getting in there soon, y'all.
Yeah, so quality, I already mentioned that, so we can pretty much blow through that. That's been, it's an RV, it's hand-built. Some of the factories I've even seen, it's kind of cool. One in particular that I went to, they had like 3 generations of workers. So it was like grandpa was the original craftsman, had been there like 30 years, and then his son, and then now this guy's grandson. It's kind of cool to see, like, these are like farming communities. It's not like I don't know, they didn't just throw these factories in a big city somewhere and take whoever can work, kind of thing. So that's coming along. And like I said, 2022, they didn't really, I was kind of expecting a lot of capture all these new RVs for 2022, and they really made minor changes. Like some of them, tweaked a few things. I know Rockwood, they came up with a cool way to level the floor, so when there's not a big bump when you go into like a Rockwood fifth wheel, and you step into the slide out area of the dining room. There's no like little trip hazard there. It's all smooth now. I mean, just there's small things like that, but nothing major. And I was actually kind of glad. In fact, Cherokee, who's the #1 selling RV in the whole country, like the biggest travel trailers sales, right? And that's at least travel trailers. But we were asking them for all their 2022 changes because we were filming. They're like, Tim, we didn't actually change anything. Like 2021 worked great. People loved it. It was #1 selling. And why make it more complex? Why allow more, things we have to work through air-wise as we get, put in new systems and new processes and new equipment and new everything? Why deal with all that right now? Let's just focus on quality. Let's just be able to get more RVs out as opposed to let's change a bunch of things. So that's kind of cool. I mean, it's, didn't change a lot as far as new styles and all that, but probably a good thing right now, honestly. Okay, so that's quality. Construction type. We were talking about kind of you pick your type. I saw you guys had all kinds of cool different things. We have Bill's wants a Class A. We've got John in a 5th wheel. We've got Alicia is getting into a toy hauler. So there's all these different types of RVs. And then one of your other decisions, Eric? What's kind of the second decision related to floor plan and stuff?
Well, there's toy hauler, 5th wheel, travel trailer.
After you figure out your type, what's next in the decision making process? There's a couple of things you probably want to.
Okay. Well, and like kind of what build do you want it? I mean, do you want something that is stick and tin, or do you want something that's fiberglass on the outside and maybe has a nicer looking paint job? That's
the picture I have up right now.
Yeah,
the stick and tin is what he's referring to on the left. That's just kind of the slang in the industry. But yeah, it's basically a house construction where it's a 2x4 insulation in between the studs, and then a siding, which in this case is always aluminum. So it's in sections, so you can replace it. If, it's easy to replace and different things. That one is
and with that though, like with the corrugated tin siding on the outside, I mean, don't go looking at all these trailers thinking that, oh, well, that one, it has that metal siding on it. It can't be better quality than this one that's smooth sided. That is a myth. I mean, like, look at Palomino, for example, like the Puma line. It's actually a fairly good quality camper. And I mean, they've been making it stick and tin since 1968. It's so
sure.
it's to have something that's stick and tin. Of course, it's not going to be as rigid as something with aluminum framework, but but that's not going to say that it's terrible quality either. So it's usually with something that's stick and tin is going to be also something that is at a much better price point as far as affordability and maximizing your value. So that's what you get with stick and tin versus fiberglass.
Yeah, so that one on the right, the fiberglass one, that actually has aluminum welded together, and then they just compress all this stuff together, the fiberglass on the outside, the insulation, the styrofoam, the aluminum, and then they vacuum seal it all together, and makes for a tight wall.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the two. So you decide that, then if you're buying a travel trailer, then you need to, or you got to figure out how are we going to tow this, do you have a truck already, or towingcalculator.org. Check that out. I'll type that in here. Towingcalculator.org will tell you how much your tow vehicle can tow. So that's an easy place to figure that out. Calculator.org. Okay, that's coming to you. That's we figure that out. And then the last thing, really, like you said, you want to sleep when you pull into a campground. Where do you want to sleep? Do you want your head up by the think? Up by the road, or usually, right?
It's a lot of folks out there, and Tim, I don't know if you can, but maybe start a poll, like how many are out there that this is going to be your first RV. And you're with shopping for an RV, something to start is as simple as, maybe finding out what side of the camper you want to sleep on. Is it the front or the back? You
need a bunk room for the kids.
Yeah. Why is my sleeping position so important? Well, you'd be surprised.
That's true. Yeah. You want to be up and have a window view of the people walking by at the camp, the little campsite, or do you want to be back here? Do you want your kitchen?
Yeah. Or if you're backed up to the lake, like here where I'm at in Lakeview, Ohio, there's campgrounds over at the state park that back up right up to the lake. So you can't wake up and have that lake morning view if you're sleeping in the front, so it's, so it's like figure out where you might be camping, what's around it, how do you think you're going to really enjoy sleeping where, and all this is an effort to get you into the camper that's going to serve you best for the long run.
Yeah. I just did the poll. The survey says 77% this will be their first RV, 23%. Not be the first. Cool.
I was thinking it was going to be more than 60% of you. This is all real good information. And at a later time, I'm going to be open for calls and emails, and I'll probably reach out to some of you guys and make sure that your questions are getting answered thoroughly and effectively to where you guys can make your decisions or help you get started on your search.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I'll put up your contact information here in a second. There's a couple questions. In fact, it ties in perfectly. How to prevent getting a lemon, new or used. So we just heard from Charles around. We're going to answer his as soon as we get into that. But before we get to that, there was a question a couple people asked about transportation fees. Carl Walker and Michelle, I think. Yeah. If it's already at the lot, you still have to pay a transportation fee.
Yeah.
So some people, they're either going to hide it into the fee of the RV, meaning they're going to jack the price up to cover the transportation. So if they're in California, you may see it jacked up $10,000 compared to other states. And they'll say, well, that's because of the transportation and all the stuff that we had to do to get it here, all the legal stuff. and so then it'll be there. So it'll be the $3,000 will be hidden in the price.
Yeah.
Or it'll be separated out as a fee. But either way, you just need to know that if you're buying it in a state that's however far from the manufacturer, that there's going to be that money's getting paid by that dealership one way or another. So whether they pass it on to you and kind of separate it out so they see a different price for the RV plus transportation, or they just bundle it all together, just know that way when you're shopping someone in Ohio and you say, okay, well, it's $2,000 less, but I have to go pick it up. You still may be further ahead, even if you only save $2,000 or whatever. But a lot of times it's a lot more than $2,000. Let me tell you, like, didn't you have that one? What was that one out in California? That was it, the Nexus one that you were talking about? That was just like,
oh yeah. Well, no, that one was a used one.
Oh yeah,
and that was I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
That was a good one.
Yeah. So, how to prevent getting a lemon? Mike, let's see. Charles said, construction question. In one of our current campers, the floor began to get weak spots within the first 2 years in the high traffic areas. I had to go underneath and reinforce with plywood and 2x6. When purchasing the next camper, what do I look for to make sure it's heavy duty flooring system? What do you suggest for Charles?
To go underneath. I'm just reading through the question again.
Yeah.
With plywood and 2x6. When purchasing next camper, what do I look for to make sure it's heavy duty flooring? Okay, so something that is going to be well worth your time and money is when you go to look at getting your next RV, do not be afraid to call an inspector and bring that inspector with you, because what they're doing is they're going to be dodging a several $1,000 bullet from hitting you. And when I mean several $1,000s, because for example, Charles, in your camper, I can guarantee you had weak spots in the floor, possibly because there was a failure in the flooring, or it could have had water damage. And in the event that this thing had water damage, that camper is essentially considered totaled. And by insurance, it would be considered totaled. And, so with that being said, that could easily be avoided by getting an inspector involved. And it does cost some money, and you want to call around on that. Oh, there's the slide. I knew we were going to talk about it. I just wasn't sure when. Yeah,
write these. In fact, in the email with the replay, I'm going to send you these. But nrvia.org or Lemon Squad, those are independent inspectors. These are just a couple that were recommended.
Yeah,
people. I don't even have any connection to these, but they are people that will, especially for used, really important. If $300, $400, whatever they charge, it's well worth the money for them to come out and spend a few hours really checking this out.
Very worth it
too, even for new, if you want to really get to the bottom of it. So, and any reputable dealer is not going to mind if an inspector's part of the process. I mean, they want you to have a good experience and a good quality RV, so they're not going to be afraid of letting you bring in an inspector. So.
As a tip, just before we get off the topic, if you do plan on bringing an inspector with you, let the dealership know. This is going to save a little bit of a headache when you go to pick up your new camper. That if they know that an inspector's coming with you, they can block out the appropriate amount of time. Because an inspector, they're typically very thorough, and it takes a fair amount of time longer than what it would just walking through it with the service department or the dealership. So you want to make sure that you let them know that you will be bringing an inspector when they schedule you to come get it, so that way you can have enough time blocked out.
While we're talking about quality and buying and all that, what do you think of the best quality RV makes? Coleman, Jayco, etc. What do you
Rockwood.
think of? Yeah, that was fast. I actually asked that question to the guy that's the head of maintenance there at RV Wholesalers, I just pulled him aside. I was like seriously, like off the camera, like if you were buying one, since you see every brand new RV that comes in here, every one that comes back for repairs, every warranty issue, like what one would you buy? That's what he told me too. He's like,
yeah,
that's a good one.
There's a whole lot. Okay, so I mean, first off, before I get into this, I want you all to know that what I'm saying is based off of opinion, and because people see quality and value in a lot of different things.
Right.
So that from my experience in the years that I've been doing this, says that I have never once had to question the reliability and dependability of a Rockwood. I never have. And, there's a couple of other companies I haven't had to either. Like, what's another one? Winnebago. Winnebago has an amazing quality assurance program. The way that they build them is just is wild. And, because they set up an entire assembly line to build one model of camper at a time. So, I mean, it's just quality through repetition.
And it's like Airstream. I mean, that's like the pinnacle of quality, but you also have to pay the pinnacle of dollars.
Yeah, and
you build in the quality. But here's the interesting fact. So there's a company called Lippert. They provide 70% of every RV component. So they are basically the chassis. They provide the chassis. They provide the appliances. They apply the electronics. 70% of everything that goes into every RV, no matter Winnebago, Coleman, Jayco, any of those, Rockwood, all the Forest River products, they're all coming from the same company. So
majority, yeah.
So 70% of it. From the get-go, a big portion of these things all the same. So not a huge difference. And when you start going between brands, there's not a big difference. Coleman, I would say, of your list, is probably your lowest end as far as entry level.
There's when I'm talking about when I'm answering your question too, is, what's the best quality or what do I think, is I'm not really talking about like the components or anything like that in there. I'm talking about workmanship, craftsmanship, fit and finish. There's some campers and the other, 30 or the other 27% of you in there that have had an RV before, what I'm talking about when I say that you walk into an RV versus another one, and it feels better. It's for perfect reasons, because the obvious amount of care when it goes to building something is blatantly obvious. You can't expect to walk into a Dutchman or a Coleman and expect it to feel the same as walking into a Rockwood. So there's it's a loaded question to see what's the best.
And the question is, a lot of them, they have the same floor plan. So if you don't like one brand, you can switch to another brand. Sometimes they're made in the same factory with a different name, Rockwood and Flagstaff. That's the same company, just some dealers can carry this brand.
Wildwood and Salem, or even the Cherokee line and Wildwood in a lot of cases are the same.
And like the Camping World, they'll get like custom names made for theirs so that you can't really price shop. So it's like, you can't get the whatever XYZ anywhere else than their dealership. That way you can't really compare prices. So that's why, forget about names for a little bit and focus on your floor plan and what you want to accomplish. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be, you don't want the least amount of issues that you can, and you'll be set. Used versus new. I'm going to hit that real fast. Right now, used is going for a lot. Like, friends of ours were camping. They came over and looked at our new camper and they're like, "Oh, this is great. Like, how much is that?" Well, because we paid, $16,000 for ours, same exact floor plan. I was like 15.5 for this. And they're like, you're kidding. Like, this is brand new. So don't be afraid to explore new, especially right now, because used is going for so much. But that brings up the next question. How do you get the most for your used one, Eric? Like, did they just trade these in, or should they sell them? What's your thought on that?
Well, I've got a lot of thoughts on that. And I would love to be able to, of course, I'm sure as some of you gathered is I do work in sales at an RV dealer, right? So I would love to be able to have used RVs on the lot, because it brings possibilities available to a broader range of customer, somebody else that we can get out there. But here's the thing. Everybody knows that when you take something to a dealership to trade it in, you're more than likely not going to get as much as you can private party. And that makes sense, because a dealership, they list it, they inspect it, they have to do do any repairs on it, things like that. So they have a profit margin to maintain, because, let's face it, no dealer is going to just sell something for free. And, so what does that mean? Sell it private party. Okay. You know that the market is really up right now, and that doesn't help for people buying in the used market. That helps for people that are selling, because people are buying right now. There's a legitimate shortage of new RVs, and, with every good shortage, you have somebody out there trying to make money on something.
I was talking to one lady came to pick up from Washington, drove all the way to Ohio. I saw her and interviewed her, and that's what she was saying. She's like, I just sold my 5-year-old RV after beating it across Alaska for 5 years to see my kids and grandkids, and I just sold it for more than I paid for it. 5 years later, bought her a new one.
Yeah. Well, I have a customer out in San Bernardino, California. She bought a Wildwood travel trailer from me it was 2 years ago. And she just sold it. I just talked to her on Saturday. She just sold it on Friday for, I think, like $5,000 more than what she paid for it.
Nice.
And, so it is real, the money that you can make off of selling private party. And you're going to have that talk with yourself of, is it worth your time? I think so. But I also know that I also know the time it takes to sell something privately. It can take some time, but a lot of people are selling these things very quick. And typically your buyer is coming from out of state.
Yeah, true. They're coming everywhere. Yeah. Where do you recommend listing these real quick?
Facebook Marketplace. It's the hottest thing. I mean, it's practically made, and just freely speaking here as an opinion, I think that Facebook Marketplace has practically made Craigslist obsolete.
Yeah, true. You get many scams
because Craigslist, I mean, they're even charging you to list your.
Oh, really?
They're starting to charge you. Well, they have to, because they don't have as much.
Oh, right.
Web traffic anymore, so they've got to stay afloat as a business. So what do they do? They charge you now.
RV Trader is one you have to pay for, but that's another good one. RVTrader.com.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I have your information coming up here. There's Eric's information. If you have questions and we don't get to them, or if you want to know how much your used one's worth or whatever, offline, that's Eric's contact information.
Yeah.
Extension 145 at that 877 number, and LeRoy at rvwholesalers.com. I'll put that up again at the end too. But that picture that I just showed, the whitewater, that was actually my family, Eric. We just
was it? Hold on, go back.
We go back. All right, so I'm right here in the green shirt on the right side.
Yeah, I see.
So my daughter, who's in the Army, she's in the front, and then my son is between us. And then, so that was down in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Smoky Mountains. The only reason I'm showing that picture is because we went down there. We didn't get to take an RV down there. We went to Smoky Mountains. We couldn't get an RV for this summer for there. And so we just had to take a break from RVing, but we still got to enjoy nature. We still got to go whitewater rafting. We, hung out in the Smoky Mountains, got to hike and do all the stuff. We just stayed in a resort this summer. And that's kind of like, the reason I'm saying that is like, everyone wants their RV this week and they're not willing to wait for it. And like right now, the wait times are long, just to be honest, but it's worth waiting to get the one that you want, not just like, oh, I'm just going to go pay an extra 15 grand or whatever it is to get this one today. It's not the perfect fit. It doesn't have the bunkhouse, the bunk room, or it doesn't have this. It doesn't have that. It's like, just, like I had to do, like, suck it up for a summer. It's not a big deal. Like, you still can do the stuff. And like, our family still had a blast. Like, it's not as fun as like when we're grilling around our own little campfire. But we got to do all that. We got to have a campfire. We got to everything. So anyways, just a little tip.
I just had a similar conversation to that earlier. I'm not even kidding. It was probably about 30 minutes before we went live on this, because these things are live and they're not scripted. So I was on the phone and Tim said, "Hey, come and help me out." And but I was just on the phone with somebody and they were like, "Well, I think I'm just going to keep calling around until I find one." And if you've been paying attention through all the things that we've been talking about here, please don't do that. It's not worth it, because here's the thing: is if let me put the RV wholesaler's hat on real quick. So say, for example, I don't have something and you go somewhere that does. There's chances that dealership knows they have that camper, and they're probably the only ones in the entire country that have one available right now. So they know that they are going to make money off of it, basically, because they know you're going to buy it. But, but ask yourself, how many trips do you have planned between now and the end of the year? Most of you are going to say, one, Labor Day. But it's a popular camping weekend, Labor Day weekend, So most are going to say one. Some might say 3 to 5. But think about this. If that camper costs $10,000 more and you have one camping trip, do you imagine like how much you just spent on that one camping trip? Like, I know you can take like a family of 5 to Disneyland for probably a week for 10 grand, so it's, just do yourself a favor and actually go through with that salesperson and build one, because some of these wait times are out like 4 to 6 months. So
the 2022 model, which is nice. Those are starting to roll off. So, and you'll be set for next year. And Bill asked, would you recommend renting an RV first, then purchase? Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, especially right now, as hard as they are to get. Like, use this time, since you have a little bit of a window of time, use it to figure out what really fits family and work. So,
now the chances of getting an RV to rent by Labor Day.
that might be.
I'm going to tell you good luck. But yes, very good idea, Bill. It's and Lori too. I would rent. It's going to cost you some money, but hey, would you rather pay a little amount and figure out if you like it first, or pay a lot of money and figure out that you have that? Newsflash, I hate camping. So it's
another idea, if you want to kind of ease in, like a Jellystone campground or something like that. KOA probably does too, but you can rent little cabins on the campsite. So what you do, just take your family there. It's very similar to, you don't have to back in a trailer and do all the stuff and have a trailer. So if you don't have a trailer, You can do that, but then you hang out with the camp people and you're like, okay, this is my people. Like these people like really care about each other. It's a cool community. It's, you just ask them questions like, and you can watch them hook up and unhook and get familiar with it. Another way to ease into it. Big finance secret though. We got to tell them this because I don't want to hear not knowing like, how do you what's going on behind the scenes, because this could save them a lot of money beyond RV. So tell us what that is.
It's so big financing secret. Some of you might know this, some of you might not.
I didn't even know this until I started helping out with you guys. So
yeah, and it's I know some of you are going to be like, man, I wish I would have known that when I just bought my truck or something like that, you know. So what that financing secret is that when you finance or when you open up a finance deal with a dealership and that dealership opens that finance account with the bank, that bank sends the dealership like a commission. It's called a dealer reserve, is the actual wording for it. Is called dealer reserve. And what a dealer reserve is as I said, it's profit. It's like a commission for that dealership. Now, in most cases, your salesman isn't even going to know what you're talking about when saying, what's your dealer reserve on this? They're, even if they did though, they're not going to tell you.
So we're talking like a few $100 the bank is giving the dealership for writing this loan? No.
I mean, in some cases, it's around. It could be around 10%.
So if you're buying a $100,000 RV, it could be $6,000 to $10,000 that's coming back to the dealer.
Yeah, it all depends on the RV, and because some RVs sell more than others, so they get higher reserves. But so
I want to make sure you guys realize, like, you need to be asking for that. Like, you need to identify this, get to the manager or whoever you need to at some point in the conversation towards the end of your dealings, pull this card out and ask them how much that dealer reserve or that in essence, it's basically a commission, but call it the dealer reserve. They're going to, share with you. And don't be afraid to ask for that. That's a lot of money that's sitting there. We're going to talk about cash in just a second. But that's how they're making another big chunk of profit. I mean, I know the cool thing was when hearing the owners of RV Wholesalers, when they built their whole dealership, they didn't even realize that came back from the bank until a couple of checks came in the mail. And they're like, what's this? Like, we already put our profit margins in. So that's when I know you guys do something cool, which is give it back to the people as a what do you call it? A finance discount or?
Some of the sales folks in there, they call it a finance discount. I call it a finance incentive. Just to be verbally correct.
Right.
On my wording, it's an incentive. If you finance, you get this. If you don't, the dealership doesn't get that money, so we can't extend it.
Yeah. So you guys give that back. Michelle asks, and this is what I always thought, like, cash is king. You come in with cash, like, you get your best deal. It doesn't make sense now because the bank is actually incentivizing the dealership to write these loans. So that it's better for the dealership to have a loan because they're getting money back.
Yep.
So like you, and they give it to the customer. So real quick, Michelle, what you can do, this is kind of the way you can take advantage of this. And you basically pay cash. And there's other people I'm sure that have saved their, and been wise and don't want to waste money on interest. And I totally get it. So here's the way you can work around this. It's a 12-month commitment. So the bank will give the money to the dealership as long as that loan is held open for 12 months. That's it. That's what's in writing. So that's what you have. Those are the rules you have to play with. So here's what you do. Pay off 98% of it on that first or second payment. And then, since it's simple interest, all these RV loans are they're simple interest, and pay it all off on the first one. All you're doing is paying the minimum payments, the next 11 payment, And so that amount of interest, what, Eric's maybe a couple $100 max.
It depends on the amount remaining, but a couple $100 maybe.
So you're going to throw away, say, $200 to get $5,000 or whatever the number is, works out. And the other game that a lot of dealers play with behind the scene is like they shop around with different banks, not to get you the best interest rate. Sometimes they're shopping around to get the best dealer reserve amount coming back to them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I had no idea this stuff was going on behind the scenes, but now you guys know, like, so don't be afraid to like ask for this and push for this, because Eric, you did it with your Harley, right? So you got some extra money back.
Yeah, I actually did manage to negotiate the cheapest Harley Road Glide in the state of Ohio.
See, folks, like, this is like legit help. Yeah. So thank you for taking time to share this secret, because if nothing else, like, this will save you money in life. This is good stuff.
Yeah, and I want to add something to this. Is a lot of you might be asking, like, well, all this is really great, but how do I really know if I'm still truly getting the best deal? And there is one sure shot way to know that you're winning. It's when you change from having a salesperson in front of you to having a sales manager sitting in front of you.
Sounds like you're talking from experience.
Yeah, well, because it's the art of closing a deal is, if any of you are familiar with Grant Cardone, that's what he calls it. He calls it the art of the deal. And with that, not everybody is going to jive together, right? So if by chance, if you feel that salesperson isn't getting through to you, that means you're doing good, because you're keeping that wall up just high enough to peek over, So, and when that salesman runs out of ammo against you, he'll go talk to his manager, and then the manager comes out to try and close you, and that's when you can really pull out the big guns, like the financing, dealer reserve, and things like that. So you can have yourself a little smile when you have the manager come sit in front of you.
That's good, man. Good stuff. Here's your contact information again. I know some of you guys have to run. If you want to hang out with us for a couple more minutes, I have something at the very end. It's kind of cool. A little giveaway we're going to do. But before that, I want to talk just a couple minutes about warranties, extended service contracts. Where folks were asking about that. Are they important? I remember my dad teaching me, like, don't waste your money on them. Then I started camping and RVing, like banging this trailer down the road, and realizing, like, oh my goodness, like, how in the world does this thing last 20 years? Like, how am I gonna, what if something breaks? It's like, nah, if something's gonna break, it's like when, at some point you are gonna have a repair. And then I realized, like, oh yeah, like, I can't just go to Home Depot and buy a new refrigerator like I would normally do, like, at my house, just kind of do my own thing, and realize, like, that thing's running on propane or 12-volt solar, like, it's an expensive thing. So that's why service plans, if you're planning, if you're budgeting, I would say a really good one that pays the bills, like that. And that's the whole point. I don't even know if I'd waste my money on one unless I knew I was getting one that actually, when the time came, paid the bills. And that, I don't know, figure about 10% if you're just putting a number to your budget. I don't know about that kind of price when you're budgeting. But there's two types, and I want to make sure you understand these. One is stated, where they state in a list all the things that are covered. The problem with that one sometimes is something that's not on the list, stated on the list. For example, an inverter. Say it's not on the list, but it takes out the refrigerator. Then now the refrigerator is not covered because the inverter wasn't on the list. So there's connections and kind of loopholes that allow them to not have to pay the bills. So that's why stated doesn't pay the bills, as well as the opposite, which is kind of the back side of this. If you looked at this in a mirror, This is called exclusionary. So ask for an exclusionary. That's not the brand. There's a lot of different brands that are good. Make sure you get an A+ rated one, but an exclusionary one, everything's covered, the whole camper, every single thing, excluding these items on this list. On this exclusionary list, that would be things like brake pads and wear and tear stuff. That's called an exclusionary. That's going to be your best coverage. Sometimes they're not that much more. A lot of times, I know the Good Sam ones, sometimes they'll package up a stated one, and the price isn't much different for exclusionary. You just have to kind of see what your needs are. Sometimes they don't make sense for you at all. Like if you're, just a park model and you're just going to go park it somewhere and leave it for the whole season or multiple seasons, might not even need it, But yeah, I found that it's a good idea. Definitely be thinking about and budgeting if you can. Very good stuff, man, Eric. Thanks for taking time.
Yeah.
Johnny asked, I've driven at least 12 to 15 times and every one of them have broken. Why doesn't the dealer fix it before they show the what's that mean?
RV, I think.
Oh, the RV, yeah. Okay.
Well, it's not that they didn't. You got to understand something here. And sorry, Tim, for interjecting on this. Because I've got a lot of experience in hearing this. When the camper's going down the road, you got to understand. I mean, this thing does not have the nice fancy strut suspension that your car has.
Yeah, they're just not at that level.
And depending on what state you live in, too. I mean, even in a state with good roads, this thing is just sitting there, just bouncing down the road. It's essentially a hollow rectangular box that's bouncing down the road at speed. And then on top of that, you have huge gusts of wind that blows it around all over the road. Mm-hmm. And you got to imagine, like inside of a camper, it's
thanks, Bill.
it's I would be willing to bet that it's on the side of violent. Like I would never want to be in an RV going down the road unless it's an actual drivable RV, like a motorhome. Like a trailer, I would never consider being in the back of one while it's going down the road, even if it were legal. It just sounds like a really bad idea. Like, and then you take that, and then maybe you're in Michigan. Oh my goodness! Like you go up through Michigan, the roads are awful, and it's just so things do break, right? That should be a given with anything. So when you're talking about getting this RV, it's to understand that something will go wrong eventually. No matter how good of quality it is, something will break. And this is why it's very important to look into an exclusionary coverage policy, like protective asset, platinum asset protection is a good one.
And that's the thing too. You brought up something. It's like I know for you guys, because you're selling most of your RVs around the nation, so it's like it's important that you ask the service question, like, "How do you take care of me?" Like I know a lot of people ask, like, "Wow, yeah, buy it and I'm in Florida. How in the world do I get service?" And the thing is, like a lot of times I thought, "Oh yeah, I'll buy local. I'll buy in Cleveland here." But then I looked, like, anytime I go camping, I'm in Tennessee or Michigan or, other states. I'm never camping like near me. So that's when it's going to break, is when I'm somewhere else. So I know you guys have the nationwide service network that basically like 2,900 vetted service centers and mobile service people and all that people, they call your concierge. Then your concierge says, "Hey, I'm going to set up an appointment here," and then they take care of hooking you up.
Yeah, and then there's this picture I'm pulling up right now. It's talking about service. So, like, you guys see that? Like, if you look on the back of like any brochure, right? It's going to have this and it says this company recommends that you buy local, and the reason being is that you can't just take this thing to any Forest River dealer or any other dealer that offers that same product. This is not like your Ford or Chevy or something like that, where it's a corporate owned dealership and they've got corporate backing. There is no such thing as a corporate owned or backed RV dealer anywhere in the U.S., not even where I work at RV Wholesalers. So keep that in mind. This is why they say you should buy local, because you can't just take it to any dealer that sells the same thing. Not happening. So I know what we do here at RV Wholesalers. We've worked with our customers for nearly 20 years now, since we started selling online, to build a network of connections and service technicians and shops that are not dealerships all across the U.S. to help our customers. And it is real. We deal a lot with Forest River, and we can actually process warranty claims for you through that connection, and all kinds of stuff. It's a cool stuff. It's a whole huge conversation to have, and I don't think we have time.
But yeah, so make sure you ask about service, though. And here's Eric's contact information for all of you guys. I appreciate you hanging out. Like, you guys have been awesome. Like, the interaction, and I'm going to answer Lori Ann's question here in just a second. But this has been fun. But thank you for taking time. Take a screenshot or a picture of this screen right here with "Get in Touch," Eric's contact information. And the first 2 people that email this to you, Eric, if they email this picture, screenshot, whatever, picture to you, the first 2 people, I'm going to have you, if they end up ordering an RV this week, and they're at that point, I want you to give them a $500 discount off their delivery. Can you do that?
Well, yeah.
Without getting fired.
Yeah, I think I'll be available to do that.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. So our way of saying thank you, Lori Ann. So she was asking about this Mercedes, which they make an awesome chassis. It gets a little expensive for repairs sometimes, but other than that, if you can do that, it's a great chassis.
Very fuel efficient.
Hard to get. Class B's are super hard to get right now. I would even look at a class like a Super C. Eric can tell you about those, but you get a little bit more bang for your buck. A lot more actually for your dollar. But the Class B is kind of it's so popular right now. It's hard to get. So
they are
out of control on those. Yeah. So, anyways, good stuff. Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate you taking time. We're going to send you the replay, virtualrvshow.com. Check this out. I'm going to be hosting a 9-hour show where we just do this kind of stuff, like education, where we walk through about 35 RVs all in like a 9-hour day. So you can just pop in whenever you feel like it. We're going to give away a lot of prizes, national parks passes, all kinds of stuff. The owners just went on an RV trip, and someone was asking, like, 5 or 6 hours, how much can you drive? Like, these guys drove for 2 weeks. Like, they put on like 10, 12 hours a day. Like, they went to all the state park or national parks out west, the Yellowstone, and we got footage. So every hour we're going to show little clips, and it's going to be fun. So
yeah, and David's still married. So
they also took like 3 motorhomes across the country. Good stuff. VirtualRVshow.com, free tickets. Check us out. That's on the 31st. It's a Tuesday, all day, like noon to 9 at night. So hopefully we'll get to see you there. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate you taking time and giving us your expertise on this. And we appreciate you guys. Happy camping soon. Hopefully you guys get an RV real soon, or a second RV. Take care.
Yeah, see you.